Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Fan Racing YouTube channel. I'm your host, GordoGambles, and today we are back talking about New Hampshire. We got ourselves another NASCAR Cup Series race this weekend, and I'm excited to break it down with not only my two co-hosts, but a very good-looking individual below me. We have ourselves Ryan Stevens from Win the Race. How are we doing all today? I'm going to pass it first to our guests. Thank you for joining us, and how are things?
Things are going great, man. I really appreciate it. I got my dog sleeping right here, and if he snores a little too loud, I'll try to kick him a little bit. But we had a big storm here, so he's not probably going to leave my side the whole time. So, yeah, sorry if you hear it, but I'll nudge him a little.
That's okay. I usually tune out when Ryan Larkin is speaking. Anyway, speaking of Ryan Larkin, how are we doing today, my friend? How are things?
You know I pay you for this, right?
I know.
Maybe say something nice for once. I am great, actually. I was very, very bored all day, and I was reminded that I had this wonderful show with two wonderful people in Gordo, so I'm very excited to be here, and we will have a good time, hopefully.
Well, you know what? It was foolish of me to expect you to say something nice about me or anything at all, so there we go.
I said something nice about those two.
You did. And
maybe speaking if it didn't take you like 7 seconds to count to 3 to start the show, I'd be okay.
Does it? We're not getting into this, guys. We got New Hampshire to talk about. Jason, you're bringing the positivity as always. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, your countdown was a little excessive today. I will say that. But yeah, excited to be on the show. Excited to have Stevens on the show. I actually passed up the county fairs demolition derby tonight to come on here and chat with Stevens tonight. It was a tough decision, going and see some demolition derby, but good thing we got the figure 8 races tomorrow, so I'll be able to hit that up and see some wrecking, right? Since probably not going to be much action on the track at New Hampshire this weekend, so at least I get some action there. Unless it rains, we could see some demolition derby action at New Hampshire if we see some rain and some wet tire racing. So
it's going to rain.
It is going to rain, but are they going to race it? That's the question.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, okay. My countdown may have been flawed to start. I was waiting for it to say live and it didn't, but that's okay because we're going to make up for it with some killer breakdowns. Before we do so, let's talk a bit quickly about last week. Stevens, as a guest, is there anything you want to highlight about last week's race? Any success you may have had, or are you ready to jump into New Hampshire this week?
No, rain-shortened races can kiss my ass. That's
fair play. Let's hope not to see one this weekend then.
Yeah, I hope that they just see it on Saturday, more than 24 hours before the race, because that's when they got to do it, and just say, listen, we're going to race. There's no lights, so let's just race Monday. Nice. If the forecast stays the same, it's going to be nice Monday. They know it. Just if that's what it says on Saturday and it's rain all day Sunday, just say we're going to race Monday. That's fine.
Stevens, what would you rather see? Would you rather see a rain-shortened race after, about 200 laps, or see 200 laps of dry track and then in the last 100 laps of wet weather racing? And at least get 300 laps in.
I'd rather watch an F1 race before any of that.
Let's do it.
No way.
That's saying a lot.
Do not get the man to my right started about F1. But we'll throw it to you next. We'll throw it to him next, Mr. Larkin. Yes, Any good things to say about last weekend? Did you pay the price of the rain shortened delay as well, or you ready to move on?
I broke even. I my cash lineup took a shit. I had kind of like Steven's kid. But I had Wallace, LaJoy, Bowman. I stacked it back in that lineup and that did not work out, but ended up making enough in tournaments to kind of break even. I really enjoyed the race. I thought the rain really bumped up the what's the word I'm looking for? The intensity. And made the racing really, really fun. So that was a super enjoyable race to watch. So as a fan, I enjoyed it. Didn't get to really make anything off of it, but from an entertainment standpoint, I thought it was really cool.
Well, before I pass it over to Jason, I will say I really enjoyed the start of that race. Like, genuinely, I don't watch many of them. I was getting over there. It seemed to be a really good start, some decent action. I was decently entertained, and then I realized my lineups were losing, so I wasn't as entertained. But it was still actually pretty fun to watch, and hopefully get something like that going on shortly here this weekend as well. Jason, what were your thoughts on this one before we move on to New Hampshire?
Yeah, the race was fun. I was excited for Atlanta. I was excited for some pack racing. We got to see that. We got to see that intensity that you look for in pack racing, edge of your seat racing. Guys making awesome moves. It was great. It was everything you asked for. Sucks that the rain came early and kind of shortened it. From a DFS standpoint, I actually had Ricky Stenhouse in my cash lineup. So cash lineups did well for me. this weekend. He was the difference maker. My single entry was like, it was another week where my single entry is just demolishing the whole race. And then like somehow at the end, like the race doesn't break my way and everything goes to shit. And I missed cash line by like 0.45 points on my single entry. So that was fun. I actually thought about single entry and just fading all the fucking chalk. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss. All the chalk this week, the four big chalk options. Like, man, I should just fade all four of these guys with single entry. Because if one of them busts, I'm going to have a mass advantage because everybody's playing these guys. If two of them bust, I'm even better. And I didn't have the balls to do it, but they all four bust, man. Would have been the move this week.
All right. Well, it would have been the move. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. We're now breaking down New Hampshire. So, guys, please hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below or in the live chat. I got some great minds around me who will answer them. Don't worry, I won't answer them. They will. You want to hear from them anyways. All right. Moving on over to New Hampshire. And, of course, as Steven's name says, rain, go away. That is going to be a talking point we have this weekend. But as is typical for the guest, please break down what we have in store for ourselves this week. What is the track like, and what do you expect to see, Stevens?
I know this isn't a popular opinion with everyone, but I love tracks like this. So I love shorter, flat tracks with tire wear, and I like seeing comers and goers. And it might be boring because people can lead a lot of laps or whatever, but there are people that if you can actually get a long run, which I feel like it's been forever since we've seen one somewhere. But if we can get a long run, I think it's a lot of fun to see the different strategies and people saving the tires and moving through the fields. That's why you see a lot of these guys. We'll talk about them, but it is a lot of the same names up top quite a bit. But as we get into it, I think we could see something a little different this year like we've seen at the other ones. And, I guess we'll just wait till we talk about the drivers to get into that part of it. But I like New Hampshire. I'm not afraid to say it. So I hope that we can race on Monday. We've had back-to-back either darkness or rain shortened races that were all strategy based at the end, and it was just luck of the draw. So I want to see a real race play out for once. Whether the racing sucks or not or whatever people think, I want to just see a real race. Just start to finish, a real race with real pit strategy. No darkness, no rain. Let's see what happens.
Hey, I'm sure we can take that any day. I wouldn't mind seeing that either. For more of the lineup construction side of things, let's throw it over to Mr. DFS NASCAR, Jason. I know you got your own thoughts on this, and please feel free to let everyone know what you think of the track itself, if you agree with Stevens in terms of you like it, or if you got some negativity to throw around. But how is it going to affect your lineup construction this week?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of New Hampshire as a race. I do like, high tire wear tracks. I just don't think this track has a lot of tire wear. It seems to be just a long, drawn out, long green flag runs. The field gets spread out. It's just always been a boring race. I don't know. As my years of a NASCAR fan, every time I come to New Hampshire, I always dread New Hampshire. It's just never normally a good race. Being a short, flat track, like what we've seen this year, it's very, very hard to pass. Moving through the field is very hard, and scoring well on DraftKings is going to come down to track position. I mean, we've been on short, flat tracks a few times this year. That's been, the theme on all these. And you can see when you look at the last four races at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, you can see, where the majority of the scoring comes, right? 78% of the top 8 scorers in those races all came from guys who are starting in the front half of the field. Like I said, the nature of this race is just long green flag runs. There's minimal cautions, difficulty passing. It makes scoring those differential points pretty much a rarity. In these 4 races, we've only seen 3 drivers score over 20 position differential points in those races. So not a lot of points to be scored from the back of the field. The real focus this week is going to be on those dominator points, right? It's a 300 lap race, a lot of dominator points to be scored. In the same sample of the last 4 races, we've had 10 drivers score 20 or more dominator points. So that's a lot more than you see of those position differentials. All 10 of those drivers landed in the top 4 of DraftKings scoring in those races too. So a lot of upside. You want to chase those dominator points. Driver starting 14th or better accounted for 9 of those 10 dominator points. So front of the field is where you're going to want to focus on. The top 5 accounted for half of those performances. When you look at the top 5 even further, we're going to see that they account for 8 of the top 13 dominator point performances in the New Hampshire races, and almost 50% of all dominator points scored came from those top 5 starting positions. So going to want to focus on the front of the field when you're looking for dominator points. maybe look to the back of the field for those obvious plays, those guys who, like a Denny Hamlin, if he muffs the qualifying and qualifies in the back, yeah, you're going to play him from the back, but really be careful targeting those value guys in the back of the field. If you get a long green flag run to start this race, they can go a lap down early. Really good opportunity to focus on the front half of the field. Those guys starting 10 to 20th is the prime for PD. And then, like I said, just dominator points from there, 2 to 3 guys.
All right, and then Larkin, to sum it all up, I think I know if it's going to be positive or negative thoughts about this track with you, but no stack the back here, it seems. Tell me about what your thought process is on this one.
Yeah, stack the front. Definitely in play here, as we see a lot of the top scores come from top 10. The one caveat to kind of what Jason was saying is, while I do agree we're not going to like playing some of the guys in the back, I do think we'll have to play 1 or 2 of them. And that's really going to come down to salary restrictions. When you look at historically this track, it's Gibbs domination for one, unless it rains and they drop the green flag. And that race killed me so bad. But when you head into a race like this in a track that's so predictable, you obviously end up with the best drivers at the highest price. And because there's so many laps in the way this race sets up, it's tough to play the best drivers together in a lineup without really punting with 1 or 2 drivers. And if you look at the previous perfect lineups, a lot of those involved people in the 55, 54, 5,300 range. We saw, I think, 2 races ago, there was 3 drivers at like 68 and under. So a lot of drivers who may be mid-pack drivers or even back marker guys that you don't necessarily want to play because they can score a lot in DK, but they're going to be able to allow you to afford those dominators. Guys like Martin Truex, who can lead 100-plus laps, Christopher Bell, things like that we know are going to be super expensive, but also will have the value to help make those plays work. So I do think while you may not like it, you may end up playing some really cheap garbage drivers in your lineup that may end up helping you win some money. But as far as liking the race, I like New Hampshire when it's just a 1 race a year deal. I think 2 races at New Hampshire is too much. I think the race is on its own is its own animal. I think it's different than any other short flat track. So it has unique characteristics. I like long green flag runs like Stevens talked about. I think that's one of the best attributes of this track is that we don't typically see a lot of carnage. It's a lot more straight racing, and we can see long runs play out, which I personally love. And so once a year to get this, I like. Once a year at Pocono, I like. Seeing 600 miles at New Hampshire within a 6-8 week span, that's a bit much. But I like 1 race here. I think the racing's different, and it has its own identity, and it's a fun one in its own vacuum.
Makes sense to me. All right. Well, with that being said, I say we move on to our drivers to watch this weekend. By the sounds of it, we have a pretty clear dynamic that we have to wait really to qualifying to see exactly who we're going to want to target here because of the wanting to stack the front here. But still, these are drivers to watch, not necessarily to target, but to watch. Before we do so, shout out to everyone hanging out here, especially Mr. Fast Cars, Fast Money, Andrew in the chat, saying what's up and watching the SRX as well. You guys can fill me in on that abbreviation as I don't know anything.
Well, about, I don't know. So it's July now. So about 7 months ago when I said, hey, let's do a show on Thursdays at 9 o'clock, I didn't realize that there'd be a racing series that would run Thursdays at 9 o'clock. So SRX is a short track series that Tony Stewart started, and now he sold it so he can make some money, I believe, or at least Evernham sold it. But they got 12 drivers on short tracks, a lot of popular names. Brett Keselowski, Denny Hamlin's in it. Got some old timers like Newman, Labonte, and it's just a fun short track series for 6 weeks in the summer. So if you're trying to have some fun and watch racing, that's what you should check out. Unfortunately, it starts the same time our show starts. So no one's going to want to be here. They're all going to watch this tomorrow on their way to work or something, hopefully. But we're hoping to wrap this up to honestly go watch it ourselves, I think. All of us are like, okay, let's get to it. But SRX is a cool deal. It's fun to watch.
Then let's dive into it then. I appreciate you dual screening that with us, Fast Cars, Fast Money. We're going to go over to Stevens first. We're talking about a top-tier driver to watch. I'm going to ask you a 2-parter, though. Feel free to mention your fighter to watch. And is your opinion on this driver going to change if he's not in the early or top runnings because you are looking to stack the front?
No. So my guy, too, is a little cheaper than the top. So I'm trying to be a little different here. Just because of the way the pricing is, I thought DraftKings did a great job putting the Toyotas up top. Like the JGR Big 3 are all 11,000-ish or whatever. So at least they did that, make it a little different this weekend. I'll start with Kevin Harvick, who's only 9.6K. And he's a guy that I'm not afraid of where he's starting. He's not known as just some dominant qualifier. But when you look at these tracks, he is one that can, as the race goes on, he can manage his tires, move up through the field. They're great at making adjustments, has a good pit crew of 4-tire pit stops. And you're going to hear me talk a lot in every driver that we name here about how they've ran specifically in this package this year because it's new for this year. So I'll use the races this year, Phoenix, Richmond, even Martinsville, where they've used this package. And so if we just take Phoenix and Richmond, only Byron, Larson, and Bell are spending more time inside the top 5 than Harvick. If you look at all 7 races of 22 and 23, Phoenix, Richmond, New Hampshire, nobody tops Kevin Harvick's 85.34% of laps ran inside the top 10. That's pretty insane. He's 7 of 7 in top 10s and 6 of 7 top 5 finishes in those races. Only Larson and Byron in those 7 races have spent more time running inside the top 5. So I don't know, man. Like, you give me that, someone who can manage his tires, pretty dominant here. And you look at this specific package too. This year he's been awesome. Harvick for 9.6K. I think that's a nice price.
All right, doesn't sound too bad to me either. Getting some salary relief to get it started. Jason, let's go to you next. No reason, just to make Ryan Larkin go last. But go ahead, Jason.
I actually love the Harvick pick there. I picked him as well, and I sent it over to Larkin. He's like, Steven's already picked him. So I switched. I pivoted, but I did do some prep work on Kevin Harvick. I do want to add, I looked at it, and, he has finished in the top 4 in DraftKings scoring in the last 5 races at New Hampshire, and he has done that while bucking the trend that I mentioned about starting towards the front. In 4 out of 5 of those races, he started 10th or worse. So just like you said, doesn't qualify well. We saw the top scorers typically come from the front. He's doing it without that, 5 straight times. So yeah.
Yeah. Was it Phoenix earlier this year where he should have won by 5 seconds?
Yeah, came on late too. Yeah, as well.
Same type thing. Like once he weathered the storm, he was way faster than everybody.
Yeah. So I'm not going to pick him here. I'm going to move. Obviously, come to New Hampshire. You want to focus on some JGR guys. A lot of steam has been generated this week with, the JGR teammates, Martin Truex, Christopher Bell, which rightfully so when you look at their performance here last year, they're as fast, right? But I'm more focused on this year. And the guy I'm looking at teammate Denny Hamlin. When you look at the short flat tracks, the 3 races we've been to this year, he's been the best out of the JGR stable. He leads them in every single statistical category outside of average finish, right? He's failed to kind of finish these races. And you can even say the same thing if you look at, the last 4 races here at New Hampshire. He is better than all the JGR guys as far as, all the statistical categories, driver rating, fast laps, average finish, average running position. He's top out of the entire JGR stable. I think a lot lines up for Denny to be strong this week. If you think JGR is going to be good, you got to think Denny Hamlin is going to show up and be a contender this week.
Okay, I don't mind seeing that. I missed what you said there, but that's okay. We have ourselves 2 people who did want to talk about Kevin Harvick. Then Larkin, are you going to make it 3 here? Or are you going to go to somebody else here the same way Jason did?
No, Kevin Harvick's great. That's my issue with the pick is it's not. It's a driver to watch for a good reason. I think he's going to be really chalky. I think people are going to be kind of on him, and I do think he qualifies like 10th or 12th. And
if he qualifies poor,
it's going to be like the perfect play. So
it'd be like a cash play.
Yeah, we're all going to be in on Harvick because it's almost too obvious. Maybe that's the reason you go the other way, but I mean Harvick's phenomenal here. To Steven's point about the tire wear earlier, it's not a super high tire wear track, but when you get 70 lap green flag runs, there is tire fall off. No one's better than Harvick, pretty much at ripping the bottom, sticking on the line, and not tearing up his tires on a long run. So it's just a track that works out well. But no, I went elsewhere. I went with someone else who I think is pretty cheap relative to what they should be. I think Harvick should be way higher price than that. And I think William Byron also came in way under what he should be at 9.9K. Just looking at his green flag speed, he was 2nd at Phoenix, 1st at Richmond, 4th at Gateway. Just pretty much fast anywhere on a comparable track. I know a lot's been made that he hasn't scored a Cup Series top 10 here. Doesn't worry me one bit. Don't care. Not something I'm putting any stock into. He won his first start here in a truck. He finished third in his first Xfinity race here. I'm just kind of ignoring the fact that he finished 11th, 14th, or whatever in his first few starts here, and I feel pretty good about him. The biggest reason I like him, though, is that he's 9.9K. It's not someone I'm paying 10.5, 10.9. I may be wanting Truex to go out there and lead 150 laps, or Bell to lead 150 laps, or one top-tier guy. Hamlin fits that mold perfectly, as Jason just talked about. And then who are going to round out my lineup? So maybe I get one of those top-tier guys, and then I get a Harvick and a Byron to round out my lineup. So instead of paying up for two expensive guys, I get two guys in the 9K range, and I have a more well-rounded lineup and still have a couple of guys that have legit race win equity. So really big fan of William Byron. He's been great all year long. And at this point, the confidence has to be about as high as you can possibly be, which to me pretty much just adds another 10th in speed anywhere you go. Confidence is huge.
Okay, I don't mind that going forward. We're going to stick with you here. We're going to talk about our mid-tier driver to watch. Who are we talking about here in this mid-tier range?
Same guy I talk about every week, Bubba Wallace.
Yoo-hoo.
I don't vary much here. So we've talked about Toyotas here at this track already. They're extremely fast. And this was the case 23-11 last year. They qualified third and fourth. Kurt Busch was driving for the team at the time, and then Bubba Wallace qualified third and fourth. Bubba finished stage 1 and second and finished third in the race. So there's not a lot of deviation between JGR and 23-11 in terms of information sharing, knowledge. Like they're all in the same boat there. So if JGR is going to be fast, 23-11 is going to be fast, and Bubba Wallace should have the speed. I know I think his over-under or whatever it is now, better or worse, was 14.5 on Underdog. I played better than that all day. I love that. And then I have him finishing top 10 in this race. So at 8K, getting a top 10 driver, I think is really, really good. I think Toyota is going to have a leg up on everyone except for maybe the Hendrick crew with Byron and Larson and Harvick for sure. But I think there's a chance that we see 6 Toyotas in the top 10 in this race, and that's going to give Bubba great value there.
All right, we're going to do reverse snake draft now. We're going over to Jason. We talked just right here about our Toyotas. Who do you have?
Hold on,
here?
one more thing. One more thing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot the most important part. And our good friend Andrew told us Bubba's running the DraftKings scheme.
Oh yeah,
it's a lock for him to have a good day. Like he's never failed. I think he's had top 5 in every race he's run the DraftKings.
You want to just roll into mine then? Not to skip you, Jason, but I'm picking his teammate. Also, DraftKings schemed.
Straight Stevens.
The 23XI boys here are live. I think one good thing too. Look at this package this year and who's been dominant in it. You can even look at Larson and Byron, because when we go to these other shorter flat tracks, it's not like we say, oh shit, this is a Larson and Byron track. And these guys are just eating everyone alive there. So guys like Reddick, you come to a place like this, you're not like, this is a Reddick type track. I think we're getting away from like the type track a little bit here, and you got to more follow the speed that these guys are showing in this package. And then you just look at how Toyota's done here in general. So 23XI, it's only a 3-race sample, but over the last few years, the best team driver rating at this track, 23XI is number 2. So they have shown up. In that race, I had Kurt Busch as the 5th best car, and Bubba Wallace is the 6th best car, just in my own true performance rankings there. And then look earlier this year, like Reddick, 5th best. I had him as the 5th best at Phoenix. He finished 3rd. He wasn't great at Richmond, but I had him as the 7th best at Martinsville. So, I mean, he's been showing up at tracks you wouldn't normally think he excels at, but this team is just so fast. Last year, you wouldn't have said, oh yeah, Bubba, he's a New Hampshire guy. And I mean, he starts 4th, finishes 3rd or whatever it was. So like, he's up there all day. Yeah. DraftKings scheme. Let's plan. Sorry to butt in, Jason.
You're good, man. When you got something like a segue like that, you make my job easy. Now we're going to go over to Jason next. You rocking something similar there? What's your thought process behind your mid-tier driver to watch?
No, those are both great plays. I like that. I mean, an 8,400 there for Tyler Reddick is also an absolute steal for the upside he can provide there. So yeah, I definitely like that call. It's obvious, the Toyotas have all the speed. It's definitely great to focus there. But not only is Kevin Harvick great on short flat tracks, typically we see the entire Stewart Haas Racing stable shows up a lot better on these short flat tracks. So I'm going to go to a guy who is in that stable, a guy a lot cheaper than some of these this price range where you guys lay it as. I want to look at Ryan Preece as my mid-tier pick. He's another guy who you could have been able to target. We've been targeting all year on these short flat tracks. We said it, when the season started that you wanted to focus on when we got these tracks. He's performed well on them so far this year. He's finished inside the top 18 in all three of these short flat tracks that we've been to. His average finish of 15.67 is 12th best, and that's despite being tied for the third worst average starting position on these. So he just absolutely puts up stinkers in qualifying, but still can manage to take care of his stuff, work through the field, and has been a solid source for a position differential on these tracks all year when we've showed how hard they are to come by. So if he qualifies poorly, you can definitely go to him again for a position differential this week. But where I think he can be a sneaky play is if he qualifies better. If he qualifies towards the front, top 10, top 15, he's not going to get a lot of ownership. And when we can actually see what Ryan Preece can do with track position, we saw at the Coliseum what he was able to do, what he was able to do with track position at Martinsville, and come through and have real top 10 upside, I feel like, in that situation at probably a very low ownership this week.
To piggyback on that real quick, speed is speed here. Mechanical grip is the name of the game, and any team that can rotate and show speed in qualifying, that typically shows up in the race. You don't see this huge this guy overqualified and then he finishes 25th. That typically doesn't happen. To go back to another situation with a mid-tier team or someone that ran pretty poorly but had good speed on this style of track throughout a year was Matt DiBenedetto when he drove the 95 car. And he showed up at Phoenix, had good speed there. And then the Toyotas in 2019 were just great on all short flat tracks. The 750 package that it was at that time, they dominated everything. That's the year he ran second to Hamlin at Bristol and almost won, right? They were just great everywhere with that package. He qualified 6th or 7th here in that year at New Hampshire, and everyone was fading him. They're like, he's starting too high. We don't need him. We actually had a member that I did a bet with who he ended up losing, but the deal was that Matt DiBenedetto was 6,200 or 6,300, started 6th, and everyone's like, you can't play him. I said, why? If he's going to finish where he starts, you're going to want that play, and that's what ended up happening. He ended up hitting perfect value, was on the optimal lineup, and that's the exact same thing with the Preece. I'll throw Briscoe into that, Almirola, really that whole Stewart Haas crew, because they're the type of team that can show up with speed this week, which they haven't shown all year other than this style of track. So I think it's very important to understand that New Hampshire specifically, the speed that you see in qualifying really translates massively. And then this track can really benefit from what you've seen at Phoenix, what you've seen at similar track types as well. So definitely trust in those speed ranks, trust in qualifying, and that will give you the opportunity to play someone who will go overlooked because they overqualify.
Well, Jason went out there, gave us someone around 7.1K. That's almost the value tier. Let's stick with you here, Jason. Go right back to back with us here. Is the next driver you're targeting going to be in that same range, or are you going down a bit cheaper?
Next I'm targeting is a guy who actually would go counter to what Larkin said about showing solid speed in qualifying last year, and did not have a good race with Michael McDowell, right? Michael McDowell is my guy. He qualified, top 15 last year in this race, and just for whatever reason, just dropped backwards through the whole race and had a terrible race. But I'm focusing him on this year because we've seen his performances be much better on these short flat tracks. He's obviously, I feel like he's going to be a very popular option this week. When you look at performances on short flats in this range, no one's stats come close to Michael McDowell as far as what has been done as far as average running position, average finish, all those things in this range. He clears them all. 2 top 10s. He has 3 finishes inside the top 13 on these short flats. This is historically is not a great track for McDowell, as I mentioned. He didn't have a very good run here last year. He does have 2 top 20s and the 5 starts here in this 34 car, but he does have a few, kind of mediocre runs. So what I really want to look at is I want to see what he does in practice and qualifying. I do think he's going to be popular regardless of what happens. And if he goes out here and lays up a stinker in qualifying, doesn't show a lot of speed in practice, I think is a very good opportunity to get away from Michael McDowell this week if he qualifies, back in that back half of the field like we talked about, I think a great justification for fading him this week.
Okay, yeah, I don't mind that mindset there. And you did go against what Ryan Larkin said there, so let's throw it to him immediately. That way, we also get to hear Steven's race winner first overall that way as well. But Larkin, up to you, man. What are your thoughts on that one, and who are you going for your value tier driver to watch?
He's wrong. No, yeah, McDowell was a big hit. I mean, it obviously nothing's exact. Nothing's always going to be 100%. So, I think for a counter to that, for my reasoning, is like Keselowski, who was kind of mediocre last year, qualified 9th, finished 7th, right? That type of thing where it's like, oh, and Keselowski is a lot more easy to trust than Michael McDowell in general.
I wasn't countering it. It was just a good segue. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. I do like McDowell, though. He's, again, another driver who's awkwardly priced way under what he should be. Like, that's a guy that should be probably 6'1", 6'2", and he's what I put the thing in there. I don't even remember what the hell he is, but he's just lower than he should be. I'm in the same boat. I think Steven's going to be in the same boat. Actually, I know he is because, again, I put the banners up. We got to save salary somewhere. We're going to be chasing the top tier guys because we know who's going to hit. It's not a surprise. And so we got to save salary somewhere. So I'm playing someone down in this range as well. McDowell offers great value because speed-wise and results-wise, he's been great. I'm going with Corey LaJoie. I got the 3rd pick in this range, and there wasn't a lot of great options left. But LaJoie's been solid. I think he was like 20th best car, 21st at Gateway. He qualified 21st here last year. I'm hoping that, he has about a 20th place car, and that could translate to some extent. The other thing, which, like they said when I brought it up, the package isn't the same as Gateway, but Carson Hocevar was fast as hell at Gateway. Like, legit fast. And so either Carson Hocevar is just way better than Corey LaJoie, or maybe they have something on short flat tracks. And let me rephrase that. Carson Hocevar is better than Corey LaJoie, 100%. But for his first part, that was really impressive. That is really, really impressive. So maybe that team has found something in terms of mechanical grip, in terms of being able to get the car to rotate. And that type of speed from Gateway will carry over to this weekend. I think that'll be interesting. But if it does, I do think he could be a top 20 contender. And at only 5.4K, that could be really good to round out lineups with.
Okay, well, that means we are left with the first overall pick in this bottom range, going over to our guest here, Stevens. Who is your value tier driver to watch, and is it going to help you get to this higher echelon of the price range?
Yes, that went way down. Todd Gilliland at 4.8K. I just thought that was a bad price. He's back in his. This is only the second race he's gotten on a short track in this in his actual front row car. He's been running that 15 around every now and then. But when he ran this, he had the 15th. Well, I rated him out as the 15th best car at Martinsville, and even in the 15, he finished 15th at Richmond. So there was some luck to that. I had him as the 24th best car there. But that's kind of what he does. Like, and maybe it's not luck because I tend to think, I guess, that there is more tire wear here than some. And I just looked at like, okay, how's he done when tires do wear? So again, different package, but just looking at the wear strictly. Auto Club finished 17th. Richmond finished 15th. Darlington finished 17th. Maybe there's something here. Maybe he's good at conserving his stuff and, maintaining. So again, like, I really don't mind him at this price, whether you get him at lower ownership, obviously, if he qualifies well. And I don't mind it then either. Because like you said, I think people can maintain a little easier here. And then if he is going to take care of his stuff, then yeah, I feel better about him staying up there. And if he starts in the back, he's so cheap, he'll be chalk city then, but hopefully he can, maintain his stuff then too. And if they do see some longer runs, maybe start to make some passes. So I just think the price is really stupid. If he is starting in the back, he's going to be stupid chalk. So just be aware of that, but you kind of need it this week. So if you're going to jam those guys on top, they're all starting up front. They look fast in practice. You're going to want 3 or 4 of those guys, and you're going to have to dive down here. So I like Gilliland.
A couple things to piggyback off that. One, he's averaging 27 DFS points per race on DraftKings. 27. If you give me 27 at 4,800 right now, I'll take it, and I'll build the rest of my lineup out. Like, that's the first thing. The second thing is we got a new tire at New Hampshire, so we're theoretically supposed to have more tire fall off. We're supposed to see 2 to 3 tenths a lap more fall off towards the back end of the run, which should play into Todd Gilliland's hand, should play into Harvick's hand. Austin Dillon kind of jumps to mind with tire wear, and then Martin Truex, of course, as well. So I do think long runs, which we typically see here, and then the fact that we should see more tire fall off is good. And then if Todd Gilliland does have a slight edge there, that's going to set him apart from a lot of those cheap guys.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too. This tire code hasn't been ran anywhere, and the only 3 guys to run it in practice, I think, were Bell, Keselowski, and Elliott.
So, that explains the Bell odds now. I forgot it was Bell that did the test. So
yeah,
that's
gave
why
him a
people are
little
on
extra boost there.
Yeah. Okay. That explains that. I totally blanked on that, but pieces put together now.
Yeah, he's already nasty here, and then practiced with this new tire, so it was all written. It's been written.
It's written in some. And Todd Gilliland was 26 here last year, which again, if you give me 26 right now, I'm kind of like, 4,800. That's not bad. I think he's got top 20 equity though. I think that team's been faster this year. I think Todd's been really solid this year.
Yeah,
I love
good,
Todd Gilliland play myself.
He raced here in trucks like back in the day, and he was in a Kyle Busch truck, I think, which was obviously awesome. But it was Christopher Bell, Ryan Truex, Todd Gilliland, first, second, third. So he was right up there with the big boys.
Yeah, I'll throw some Todd Gilliland love in too. I mean, I had picked Todd Gilliland. He was two of my 3 picks I gave to Larkin. You had already picked it. Seemed like Todd Gilliland was another one, so I had to pivot.
And I made you miss the Demolition Derby. Damn.
Yeah, and you made me miss the Demolition Derby. But yeah, I mean, obviously, way mispriced here by DraftKings. I don't know what they have against Todd Gilliland. 48.
How is Noah Gragson so priced above him?
Yeah, I don't understand this.
Like, what are we doing?
Like, I know you already mentioned it, but I mean, if you look at the Gateway and Gateway in Richmond, he had the two of the 3 short flat tracks. The only 2 that he actually was in decent equipment on, he finished 15th in both those. Average running position of 21.3. If you look at that compared to everybody else in this range, there's not anybody priced under $6,700 who has a better average running position than 21.3. So
yeah, that's
crazy value.
That's what I mean. Even if he's chalky, I mean, you might just eat that and move on.
Okay, eating $4,800 chalk.
Oh yeah. If there's any chalk to eat, it's that one.
Yeah.
It's not a 7,500 Elmo roller or wherever.
Right. Yeah.
He'll definitely wreck if I click him.
Hey, well, if we get that value, we're able to go up there and grab anybody we really want up top, and that leads us towards our race winners. Stevens, we're going to start with you. If you're able to go down and use those value plays and pick any driver to win this week, who is your race winner?
So, again, I got nothing against people picking the favorites. Like, obviously, I love Bell here. I just tried to be a little different. I went with Kyle Larson. Goes back to kind of what I was saying about Reddick. Like, I guess I'm just more concerned with how fast they've been in this package this year. And, they said it was going to be maybe a little harder to drive the car, things like that. And I think that's kind of played right into Larson's hands. He's been unreal, too, on the intermediate package. We already know that. But now, like, I don't know, him and Byron have been just separating themselves from the field in this. I'll name just a couple stats here that I have. At Phoenix and Richmond, only Byron and Larson are over 80% of the laps ran inside the top 5. Like, that's just insane. Then you look at the 22 and 23 Phoenix, Richmond, New Hampshire races. So 7 races. Only Byron and Larson have spent more than 50% of the time running inside the top 5. And Larson leads the way in those races, spending 42.92% of the time inside the top 3. So he's always there. And you just look at him this year in this package. Phoenix, I had him ranked as the first best car, finished 4th. And I know Harvick, probably should have won that. Either way. Richmond had him as the 2nd best car. He won. Martinsville had him as the 5th best car. He won. So it's just like he's just finding a way. I think their strategy's been really smart this year too. Toward the end of races, even if some shit goes wrong, I think they've been making some good calls and getting him up toward the front, even when some things go wrong for him, which isn't often, but it has a little bit. I don't know, man. It's like the odds too. Like he was 10-1. I just think that's kind of crazy. So I bet 10-1. I bet Byron at 12-1, and then that leaves some money on the table if you want to take whoever looks fastest in practice this weekend. So I'm cool taking Larson right now, and he's the best driver in this package this year, and he's like 5th in pricing or something. So I don't know. I like it.
Okay, I don't mind that shot to get things started. Jason, we'll go to you next. Who is your projected race winner? And did Steven steal him from you again?
Can you say package one more time, Stevens?
Package.
Yes,
Package.
I like the Larson call there. I think, I definitely jammed both Larson and Byron. I don't bet much, but I definitely hit those lines when I saw those open up. And like, why are these guys like the 4th or 5th or 4th and 7th? Longest guys was just silly. I'm going to go with, I'm not going to spend too much time on my pick. I'm going to go with Kevin Harvick. We kind of already talked about him quite a bit already. 4 career wins here. He's been great on short flat tracks. He doesn't have a win yet this year. It's his last season. He needs a win. He wants a win. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at a track like New Hampshire. I feel like a lot of things line up. It's not like he wasn't fast here last year in this car. Right. He finished 5th, obviously, last year, 34 fast laps in that race, and he did not lead a single lap. So he had speed. I think we're going to see a similar performance to what we saw at Phoenix. Charged late in that race. He's going to be there at the end, especially if, like Marklin mentioned, if Goodyear achieved what they tried to do and got some more tire wear on this tire, on this compound, it's going to definitely play right into his hands as well. So I like Kevin Harvick.
Okay, and then we go to our final pick of the night, Mr. Ryan Larkin. Who are we going with for our race winner this week?
So first off, the Harvick thing, I literally wrote 34 laps on my piece of paper because I wanted to make sure we got that point across that he had 34 fast laps here last year. Which is really impressive. When you start factoring in caution laps and all that, that's like 17% of the race. He probably had the fast lap. So very big speed there. And then we saw it again at Phoenix earlier this year. Harvick is someone we're all in love with. I'm going with someone who is, I believe, the favorite to win this race, and that's Martin Truex Jr. I'm not going on a limb here. I just think Martin Truex is too good to beat right now at this track. Overall, this year, he's killing it. It's back to his winning ways. They got that monkey off their back. Cruise Chief has been making better calls. They've been delivering as a team. That's the first step. Statistically, he's finished 7th or better in 7 of the last 8 races here. He has led 83 or more laps 7 times at this track, and he's done it with 3 different teams as well. So he did it with MWR. He did it with Furniture Row, and then he did it here with Gibbs last year. Led 172 laps, won both stages last year. He was by far the best car. He should have won that race. Things just didn't go his way, but he's just been great here. He's been great here all the way back. He had a dominator performance when he drove for DEI when their stuff was trash. So, I think Truex just got to beat. And then if there is more tire wear, there's no one I'm picking over Martin Truex Jr. when it comes to higher tire wear and taking care of yourself in the long run. I will take him number 1 all day, every day. I'll take Harvick number 2. So I like those 2 guys a lot, but Truex is my guy. I think the odds reflect who the favorite should be, and I'm going to stick with that. I'm eating chalk this week.
You're mentioning fastest laps, so I just got a quick bit of trivia here. So we have on wintherace.info, there's a free article we put out, and it's called Front Runners, and it's just the percent of laps people are running inside the top 10, 5, and 3. And then also percentage of fast laps, all that stuff. And it accounts, cautions, all that stuff as well. But so in the next gen car, for the 3 Phoenix races, 3 Richmond races, and the 1 New Hampshire race, in the top 5, our picks to win are 3, 4, and 5 in those fast lap percentages. Who are the 2 drivers that are ahead of them?
All right, so you picked Harvick, you picked Larson. So Byron?
Yep, he's number 1. And number 2 is interesting.
Is it? No, Denny Hamlin.
No.
Damn.
It's not a Toyota.
Not a Toyota.
You got to guess,
Ross
Jason?
Chastain. Don't say Ross Chastain.
No, it's not a Chevy. It's Ford.
Almirola?
Briscoe.
Blaney.
Blaney. Oh,
Yeah.
They were really good at Phoenix last fall. That don't count.
Oh, yeah. They did.
Well,
We got,
so
like,
here's another little piece of trivia. Over the last, I think since 2021, if you take a team driver rating, the number 1 team driver rating over 23XI over JGR is Penske. Thought that was interesting.
Very interesting. I don't feel like they've been as good this year, though. Maybe we're just overlooking them.
No, they haven't. But yeah, I think the Blaney thing was very interesting. So it's going to make me dive into them a little bit more. But I just thought that was
Especially if he
cool.
goes out there and qualifies fourth or something, right? And like you have all the chalk guys we're looking after starting in front of him.
Yeah, Blaney to me is like the hardest guy to figure out.
Oh, he's for sure. Anytime I fade him, Charlotte, he dominates. And you're like, where the hell did this come from, right? And then you get all over him like, this is great Blaney week, and he runs 15th. So I've struggled with Blaney for a couple of years. Maybe because his name's Ryan. I don't know.
The Ryan curse. All right. That's going to do it for us here on the Daily Fan Racing podcast. Talk about New Hampshire, broke it all the way down. 3 drivers target each. That's 9 total and 3 projected race winners. Larkin's making me laugh here. Going from taking, going from taking Shane Van Gisbergen to the chalkiest winner to win here in Martin Truex Jr. You're all over the place, but there's a method to the madness. Let's pass it around. I appreciate everybody for joining me, as always, talking about races here. Stevens, where can they find all your work? And let's hope your name stays true and the rain goes away.
Yeah, you can find me at wintherace.info, or you just search that on Twitter, Ryan Stevens, Win the Race. I'll pop right up there. I've started going back to some of my old ways, posting some fun little charts on Twitter, stuff like that. Have released more free stuff on Win the Race, and we have I have big plans for next year too. I'm excited to announce and trying to form an army. So we'll see what happens with that. But wintherace.info. Come sign up, check it out. It's a lot of fun. Thanks for having me, guys, too.
You're a one-man army over there. You don't need an army.
Nah, I don't know. I have some ideas. I'll share it with you guys when we go off the air here.
More people or more headache. That's the only advice I'd give
More
you.
people is less money for you.
More headache.
No, it'll be good.
All right, Dustin. Thank you, by the way. You do a great job.
All right, pass it over to Jason. Next, what you got going on this week?
You guys can find my usual stuff. Same place it's at every weekend. Be Sunday morning, bright and early. Got my breakdown, cheat sheet, core plays, all that good stuff, bright and early. RunCurveSports.com, free article. I even delivered a free article this weekend from a tent while tent camping with my family with limited Wi-Fi, no battery, in the rain, in a tent that was leaking. Literally was like stuffing towels to the edge to keep water from hitting our air mattress and all that stuff. So actually, I lie. I didn't have an air mattress. I brought the air mattress, but somehow forgot the plug at home. So my wife was pissed that I had this air mattress and I didn't have the plug to blow up the damn thing. So we had to sleep on the ground. It was terrible, but I still wrote an article. I'm a man of the people, and it was free, and it'll be out there again this weekend.
If you start charging, maybe you can afford those things, like a new tent that doesn't leak. Maybe like a backup air pump or something, like things that you need, essential things for camping.
Yeah, the smiles on people's faces when I put out my free article are more rewarding than the proper things.
Oh, that is lovely.
Wow. That's beautiful.
All right.
Top it.
All right.
Well, I charge everyone. No, all of our stuff's at DailyFanRacing.com. We'll have we got Xfinity. I'm really looking forward to Xfinity because there's not a short turnaround. So we get some information on Friday and we get the plan accordingly, which is fantastic. We'll have the Cup stuff. Dustin will handle the Cup stuff and the Cup breakdown. We'll do podcasts for both races. We'll do all types of stuff. We'll focus on we're really picking up steam with the solver and projections and mini-maxing, and we're trying to take down every MME contest that exists. I think we were 2 for 3 this past weekend, so hopefully we can get both of them this weekend and get a lot of success, continue that. But other than that, here every Thursday, please subscribe and like the video and tell people, help spread the word, and I will keep asking really cool guests like Ryan Stevens, who are way better at this than I am, to join to make this look and sound awesome.
Thank you guys so much. I always love coming on here.
Yeah, no.
And Jason, I'm so sorry, man. Someday you and I are going to go to a demolition derby together.
Let's do it, man. It's all right. I got figure eight races tomorrow. It'll be fine. It'll be just as fun.
I told him to skip it. I said, go ahead, watch the race. We'll handle it. 3-man show. He's like, no, I want to talk to Stevens. Literally, I said, I was like, what about us two? Like,
I want to win this week.
He doesn't care about us. It's just you, Stevens.
It's a love story. All right, guys, but that's going to do it for us here on the Daily Fan Racing YouTube channel. Please leave a comment down below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. We just broke down New Hampshire for 50 minutes. We have been grinding. We got some great companies that are working with us here as well. So go check out Daily Fan Racing. Go check out Win the Race. Go check out Run Pure, but mostly Daily Fan Racing. All right, guys. But as always, best of luck in all your DraftKings and betting endeavors this week. And hope everyone enjoys the race at New Hampshire. Let's hope the rain stays away, and let's hope we make some money, guys. Peace. Thanks for tuning in.